She had everything handed to her: private jets, designer clothes, and a last name that opened doors before she even knocked. But inside, she was crumbling, failing every test, drowning in silence. Everyone gave up on her, her teachers, her classmates, even her mother, until one day, in the quietest corner of the school, a janitor, a black woman nobody ever really looked at, said something that hit her harder than any lesson ever had. She thought she was just cleaning floors. She had no idea she was about to clean out everything she thought she knew. Her name was Ava Miller, the only daughter of Eleanor Miller, a tech tycoon whose name graced the cover of Forbes as regularly as the changing seasons. Ava grew up surrounded by private jets, personal chefs, and birthday parties with celebrities as guests. But for all she had, one thing was missing: purpose. At 18, Ava attended one of the most elite private high schools in Denver. Not because she earned her way in, but because the name Miller opened doors like a golden key. No tests, no interviews, just a wire transfer and a reputation that did the talking. Inside those marble hallways lined with portraits of powerful alumni, Ava was known for three things: her arrogance, her expensive clothes, and her academic failure. Her grades were a joke. Teachers passed her out of fear, not merit. She didn't care. Why would she? One day, she'd inherit an empire. What could a GPA do that her last name couldn't? She mocked teachers, ignored classmates, smirked through lectures like they were beneath her. When the school counselor once called her in about her failing grades, Ava leaned back in her chair and said, "I could buy this school if I wanted to. What grade is going to change that?" The quote spread like wildfire, but no one dared confront her. Everyone, from faculty to students, tiptoed around Ava. No one wanted to risk losing the Miller donation. At home, things weren't much better. Her mother, Eleanor, was a woman of stone, cold, calculated, a self-made billionaire who didn't believe in excuses, not even from her own blood. "You're an embarrassment," Eleanor said one night after another call from school. "If you worked for me, you'd be fired." Ava crossed her arms, rolling her eyes. "But I'm not your employee. I'm your daughter. The world doesn't care. Either you become someone, or you'll just be another rich kid with a last name and no spine, and I won't carry you." The silence that followed hit like a punch. Eleanor wasn't bluffing. She was dead serious. The next day, Ava showed up at school like nothing happened. She pulled into the faculty parking lot in her sleek Audi, a gift from her last birthday, and walked the halls like a runway model. Some students stared in envy, others in disgust. But one pair of eyes didn't look away. Hers, an older black woman, likely in her 50s, was mopping the floor near the side entrance, her posture upright, her eyes quiet but alert. Her uniform was wrinkled, but her presence wasn't. Ava didn't notice her. To her, she was invisible, just the janitor, background noise. But school began to weigh on her. More tests, more failing grades. And then came the blow. Her mom cut off her credit cards, took the car, forced her to take the school bus like everybody else. One of those bitter mornings, she passed the janitor in the hallway. For the first time, she noticed she was whispering something while cleaning. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. Ava stopped. "What did you just say?" She looked up calm, unafraid. "Nothing you're ready to understand, girl." She chuckled, but something in her words stung. She turned and walked away like nothing happened, but Ava kept thinking about her. Ava climbed the steps of the school building with her hands shoved deep in her jacket pockets. Everything felt different, colder, smaller. Gone was the smug energy she used to carry through the hallways. Now she walked fast, quiet, trying not to feel the weight of the stairs. That morning she got her literature test back, a plain white envelope folded in half with a cold finality to it. She opened it with the usual expectation, maybe a low C, maybe a mercy grade, grade 1-100, scrolled in red at the bottom. "Did you even read the passage?" Ava stared at the page, blinked, laughed nervously, looked around. No one was laughing with her. More tests came that week. Math, 24%, history, 31%. Biology, a solid 0. It wasn't funny anymore. The school counselor called her in again. This time, his voice wasn't gentle. Ava, you're academically at risk. I'm not talking about behavior, I mean failure. Statistically, you're at the bottom of the entire senior class. It's temporary. She shrugged. I'll hire a tutor. You already had 3. They all quit. That shut her up. Later that day, as she left his office, she ducked out through the back entrance to avoid being seen. And there she was again, the janitor, scrubbing up a soda spill near the cafeteria. She saw her, smiled politely. She stopped. You said something last time about Socrates. She stood slowly, wiped her hands on her apron. And you remember it? Yeah. I mean, it stuck with me. Kind of weird for a janitor to be quoting ancient philosophers. She crossed her arms. It's weirder when a girl with the whole world at her feet can't pass a reading test. She bit her cheek. That one hurt. You used to be a teacher, didn't you? Not just philosophy. I taught plenty more before life threw me off balance. Teach me then, she said. Help me, please. She studied Hashi. One condition. You leave your name and your pride at the door. Start from 0 from the floor. Fine, she whispered. I can't keep failing. Next morning, Ava showed up before sunrise. The school building was still asleep, wrapped in fog and silence. She walked slowly through the back entrance, gripping the notebook she'd given her like it was something sacred. She found her, Evelyn, in the east wing, polishing the floor with slow, precise circles. She wore simple earbuds and hummed something soft. Maybe gospel. Ava stood awkwardly for a moment before stepping forward. Hey, you said you'd teach me, remember? Evelyn paused, removed one earbud, and looked at her calmly. I remember. I also said it wouldn't be easy. I don't care. I need this. Then let's begin. But first, you should know my name, please. Evelyn Wallace. Ava smiled faintly. How long you've been working here? 3 years. Before that, other schools. And before that, she paused, then looked her dead in the eye. I was a college professor, English Lit and philosophy. Her eyes widened. Why would you leave that for this? Evelyn folded her cloth slowly and answered without a trace of shame. Sometimes life takes everything you thought was yours and leaves you with nothing but what you know. And I still know how to teach. Ava nodded, overwhelmed. For the first time in her life, she saw someone truly strong without power. So where do we start? I tried reading stuff last night. I don't know how to even begin. That's the first truth, she said. Pride fools you into thinking you already know, but when you admit you don't, that's when you start learning for real. I can read, Ava muttered, slightly defensive. I didn't say you couldn't, but I'm not talking about reading words. I'm talking about understanding what's between the lines. She pulled a battered notebook from her bag. Every morning before class, you meet me here 1 hour. And every evening after I finish cleaning, you sit and write. What you learned, what you felt, what you understood. No grades, just honesty. Ava opened the notebook. Blank pages, an invitation, a challenge. What if I fail again? Then you're finally doing it right. The days rolled by. A strange rhythm began to form, almost sacred. Ava showed up early. Evelyn greeted her without ceremony, only questions. What did the sentence make you feel? Why do you think this character stayed silent? Can you tell me what courage sounds like? She didn't lecture, she provoked. Ava began to see differently. The book stopped feeling like chores. The sentences started pulling at her gut. She was learning how to feel what words were trying to say. The notebook filled up, not with answers, but with thoughts, reflections, fears. She wrote about her mother, about pressure, about how angry she was at being empty all the time. Evelyn read every word. One night while she was writing in the cafeteria, 2 girls walked by laughing loudly. One of them, Maya, a star football player, nudged the other and said, "Look at little Miller now." Writing love letters to the janitor. Ava clenched her jaw, ready to react. But Evelyn gently placed a hand on her shoulder and whispered, "You don't measure depth." With a shallow ruler, she looked up at her. That one line hit deeper than any insult. Later that night, Ava opened a message from her mother. They updated your academic record. One last warning. Turn things around or you're out. No trust fund, no apartment, nothing. Ava stared at the message. She didn't reply, but for the first time, she didn't feel afraid. She felt ready. Friday arrived with buzz and tension. The school was alive with the end of term. Energy, report cards, college counselors, graduation meetings. Everyone was talking about the future. Ava walked through the crowd, gripping a folder full of redone assignments, essays marked with praise, and a draft of a piece titled The Illusion of Power, written under Evelyn's challenge. She'd never been proud of anything academic before. She thought maybe, just maybe, her mother would be proud too. But when she reached the office, Eleanor Miller was already there, standing by the window in a sharp gray suit, checking her phone like it owed her money. "You're late," Eleanor muttered without looking up. "Let's get this over with." The school counselor, clearly nervous, handed over Ava's new report. Ava reached for it, but Eleanor took it first. She scanned it. The grades were better. Still far from perfect, but steady improvement paired with glowing remarks from teachers. Shows initiative, participating actively, significant change in attitude. Eleanor closed the folder with a dull snap. "This is what you call progress." Ava exhaled. "I'm trying." "Honestly, trying with who?" Eleanor pressed. "The last tutor quit. Who's been helping you?" Ava paused. She didn't want to expose Evelyn, but something in her said it was time. Evelyn, the janitor. Silence. Eleanor blinked, then gave a dry, sharp laugh. "You're kidding. She used to be a professor." "She's a janitor," Eleanor cut in. "That's all that matters." Ava's voice rose. "She taught me more than any of your overpriced tutors. She taught me to think." Eleanor took a step forward, voice low and threatening. "You're embarrassing this family. You're wasting time with people who have nothing to offer. She sees me. You never did." Eleanor stared at her like she was a stranger. "If you keep going down this road, you lose everything. No car, no money, no name. Don't test me." Ava felt the words burn her tongue, but she said them anyway. "Maybe I need to lose everything to figure out who I actually am." Eleanor didn't answer, just walked away. The next week, Ava was quieter, angrier, but not defeated. The kids at school noticed. The teachers did too. Rumors spread. Some said Ava was obsessed with the janitor. Others mocked her openly. Maya and again shared a video of Ava sitting with Evelyn after hours with the caption, "Lessons from Losers." Ava didn't flinch. Instead, she printed her essay and posted it on the school's reading board under the title, "Learning Doesn't Make Me Weak, Ignorance Does." Ava Miller. The paper was gone the next day, but the message, it had already taken root. Monday morning brought a strange calm. The rain had stopped. The sky was gray, but quiet. Ava walked into the school early, clutching a coffee in one hand and a notebook in the other. She found Evelyn in the back hallway, mopping near the old science wing. She looked up as she approached, eyebrow raised. "You're bringing peace offerings now." "Coffee?" Ava replied, handing her one. "And something else?" Evelyn took the cup and looked at her closely. "You've got that look, the one people get right before they say something that changes everything." Ava sat on the floor, notebook still in her hands. "I looked you up online." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You what?" "Not in a creepy way," she added quickly. "I just wanted to know. You quoted Socrates. You teach like you've got 20 years of experience, and I found it an old article. Evelyn Wallace, tenure professor at Stanford University, guest speaker, published writer, award winner." She closed her eyes for a long moment. That woman existed. She just doesn't get invited back anymore. What happened? Evelyn leaned against her mop handle. "I blew the whistle on a plagiarism scandal involving a tenure dean. Big name, powerful. I refused hush money. They shut me out quietly, permanently. The people I trusted disappeared, and then my husband died in a car accident on the way to a conference I organized." Ava swallowed hard. "You lost everything except my mind," she said softly. "And my voice," she nodded slowly. "Then I want to make you a deal." Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "What kind of deal?" "I want you to teach me. Really teach me like I'm one of your college students. Don't hold back. Don't treat me like I'm fragile. I want to learn everything, you know. I want to be someone, not because of my name, because of what I do." She looked at her carefully. Something was different in her eyes. Not defiance, not arrogance. "And what's your part of the deal?" "I won't quit," she said. "No matter how hard it gets, I'll fail, rewrite, relearn on whatever it takes." Evelyn stood silent for a moment. Then she extended her hand. "Then we've got a deal." They shook on it. No contracts, no fancy terms, just truth. That week, things intensified. Evelyn built a plan. Not one based on tests, but on understanding. Ava read Baldwin Hughes Morrison. She started writing reflections instead of essays. She questioned systems, injustice herself. Each night she handed her a notebook filled with thoughts. And each night she returned it with questions that dug even deeper. The school still didn't know. To the rest of them, Ava was still figuring things out. But inside, something bigger was happening. A few days later, Ava showed up to evening study with someone new. "This is Liam," she said. "He's in my biology class. He needs help with writing." Evelyn smiled. "Looks like we've got ourselves a class." More students came quietly, cautiously. Word spread that someone at the school was actually helping. Not grading, not judging, but teaching. The abandoned library turned into their secret classroom. They read, wrote, debated, cried. It was beautiful and dangerous. One afternoon, Evelyn was called into the office. The assistant principal spoke in corporate tones. "Ms. Wallace, we've received concerns. Parents are asking why their kids are spending time with the janitorial staff after hours. It's unorthodox." "I'm teaching," she replied simply. "You're not a certified instructor here. It's not in your job description." Evelyn stared at her. "Neither is saving a kid's life, but I did that anyway." The assistant principal didn't answer, but Evelyn knew what was coming. Ava heard about it the next day. "They told you to stop?" "Yes, that's insane. You're helping." "I know," she interrupted. "But that's what systems do. They don't attack what's broken. They attack what's working. If it wasn't meant to work that way," Ava clenched her fists. "I'm going to tell my mom. I'll go to the board. I'll go public." "Not yet," Evelyn said firmly. "Your voice needs to be strong enough to stand on its own first. Not your mother's name, yours." She nodded and understood. The revolution had already begun. Winter crept into Sydney, painting the mornings in fog and silence. The school hallways were darker, quieter, but inside Ava, something brighter was growing, a kind of light she couldn't explain. One morning, Evelyn met her in the old library, the one no one used anymore. She sat her down, folded her hands over a book, and looked her in the eyes. "It's time I tell you the one thing no one teaches." Ava leaned forward. "I'm listening. The secret isn't in grades or textbooks or diplomas. The secret to real learning is transformation." She stood pacing slowly. Most people learn to pass, to survive, to repeat what someone told them and hope it's enough. But you don't change like that. You change when something inside you breaks and rebuilds stronger. Ava was silent. "You've started that process. But you need to know what real learning feels like. It's messy. It's painful. It's personal, but it's real." She handed her a worn-out book with blue binding. "This saved me," she said. "The Souls of Black Folk by Webb Dubois. I read it when I lost everything. It brought me back." Ava opened the cover. Handwritten notes filled the margins. "You're giving me this? I'm trusting you with it. Why me?" Evelyn sat back down. "Because when I saw you that day, you weren't arrogant. You were drowning, and something in you still wanted to live." Ava clutched the book. "I'm going to read every word and then write something real. Not for me, for you." She stood to leave, picked up her mop and bucket. Before exiting, she turned. "Next time someone asks how you're doing in school, don't say I'm improving. Say I'm becoming someone." She sat there long after she left, the book in her hands, her chest heavy, not with fear, but with meaning. She didn't want to just pass anymore. She wanted to matter. Something had shifted. You could see it in the way Ava walked. She no longer moved through the school like a princess, but like someone awake. She still wore the same clothes, but the weight behind her eyes was different now. Not empty, focused. Most teachers didn't know what to make of it. The arrogant heir was now asking questions in class, writing full essays, volunteering for group work. One day during history, she raised her hand. "Can we talk about how the textbook glosses over slavery like it was a footnote?" The room went silent. Even the teacher hesitated. "Where'd you hear that?" he asked, cautious. "Dub boys and Baldwin and a woman who knows how to teach." No one knew how to respond, but no one forgot that moment either. Ava wasn't just changing herself. She was seeing others. The quiet boy who always sat alone in the cafeteria. The student who worked 2 jobs after school and still showed up on time. The teacher who gave brilliant lectures but never got the respect she deserved. And she noticed something else. Once you learn to really see people, you start to realize how many go unseen. Each day with Evelyn continued like clockwork. Mornings of deep questions, evenings of writing. She was building something, not just better grades, a better self. The essays became more personal, more political, more powerful. Evelyn corrected them with tough love. Red ink, sharp notes. "Don't just say it, mean it. This sentence is pretty but hollow. Rewrite it with your soul." Ava rewrote. Over and over, she stopped caring about what people thought, but not because of arrogance, because she finally knew who she was becoming. One afternoon, Ava brought another classmate to their study session. Then another and another. Soon, the abandoned library turned into a quiet revolution. Evelyn taught circles of 5, 6, sometimes 10 students after hours. They weren't just learning to write, they were learning to think. Books once ignored became holy texts. Quotes were shared like battle cries. If you are silent about your pain, they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it. Azora Neale Hurston. The function of freedom is to free someone else. Toni Morrison. These weren't just study sessions. They were awakenings. But not everyone was pleased. One rainy afternoon, Evelyn was pulled into the office. "We've had complaints," the assistant principal said. "You're gathering students outside of official capacity. I'm teaching. That's not your role." "Maybe it should be," Evelyn replied. "Ms. Wallace, we're going to have to ask you to stop." She left the office without another word, but her back was straighter than ever. The next morning, Ava found out. "They're shutting you down. They're scared," she said. "Of what?" "Of someone with no power teaching students how to have real power. I'll speak out. I'll go public. Call my mom." "No," she said, placing her hand on her shoulder. "Not yet. Your voice needs to stand on its own, not as a Miller." As Ava, she nodded, teeth clenched, but something inside her said the storm was close. The change they'd created, it couldn't be hidden forever. It happened faster than he expected. Ava walked into the garage after school, drenched from the rain, gripping a paper with a bold red A on it, the first she'd earned all year. The essay was titled "The Courage to Unlearn." Her teacher's comment, "You found your voice." She wanted to show her mother just once, not for approval, for truth. She found Eleanor standing beside a brand new electric sports car, speaking to someone over Bluetooth about acquisitions. "Mom," Ava said, holding the paper, "I want to show you something." Eleanor took it with a blank face, scanned the title, raised an eyebrow. "Is this a joke?" "It's a real essay from my English class. I got an A." "Ava, this is a diary entry about feelings. This isn't academic. It's sentimental. It's about growth, about learning." Eleanor tossed the paper onto the passenger seat. "Who taught you to write like this?" Ava hesitated, then said it clearly. "Evelyn, the janitor." Silence. Eleanor stepped forward, voice low and full of venom. "You're telling me? You're learning from someone who mops floors? She was a professor before. She's a failure now." Ava's fists clenched. "She's done more for me than you ever have. If you don't stop seeing her, you lose everything," Eleanor warned. "Your money, your car, your name. Then maybe I need to lose it all," Ava said, trembling, "to figure out who I really am." Eleanor stared at her coldly. "Pack your things. You're done." The next day, Evelyn was gone, fired early, no warning, escort to the gate, no chance to say goodbye. Ava searched the halls. Empty. Her bucket, her coat, all gone. She felt like she couldn't breathe. Her grades started slipping again, not because she didn't know the material, but because her fire was gone. She walked like a ghost. The library was empty now. Then came the final blow. A bulletin board announcement, end-of-year speech contest. Topic: What it means to win in life. Ava stared at the paper, then went home and wrote, all night, not for credit, not for a grade, for her. The announcement was posted in bold letters at the school entrance. Senior speech contest topic: What it means to win in life. Open to families in the community. It was the final assignment of the year, and the stakes were high. Scholarships, university recommendations, and public recognition. For most students, it was just another hoop to jump through. But for Ava, it was something else. It was war. That same morning, she found out Evelyn had been fired. Early, quietly, no chance to say goodbye. They said it was budget cuts. Everyone knew better. She left without fanfare. Ava sat in the empty cafeteria, notebook open, hands shaking. She stared at the pages filled with her words, her corrections, her questions. Learning is transformation. Pride is a trap disguised as protection. You don't need permission to become someone new. She closed the notebook and opened a new one and wrote, not for grades, not for applause, for truth. The night of the speech contest arrived. The auditorium was packed. Parents in expensive coats, students in neatly pressed suits, college scouts in the back row with clipboards. Ava stood behind the curtain wearing a plain navy shirt and dark jeans. No flashy shoes, no last name pinned to her chest, just her and her story. Her name was called. She stepped onto the stage. The room fell quiet. She looked across the crowd and began, "My name is Ava Miller. Some of you know me as the kid who wasted a golden ticket, who didn't care, who failed. They say I had everything, but I didn't have the one thing that mattered. Someone who believed in me until she showed up." She paused. She wasn't my teacher. Not officially. She wasn't paid to help me. She had no office, no authority, just a mop and a heart big enough to see through my anger. She scanned the audience. She taught me how to read between the lines in books and in life. She taught me how to write, how to think, how to listen. She didn't just clean the floors of this school, she cleared the fog in my head. The air shifted, people leaned forward, but she was fired, silenced, because systems don't like it when someone from the bottom starts making a real difference. So today, I'm not speaking to impress you, I'm speaking to honor her. She held up the notebook. She told me learning was transformation, that real winning isn't about being rich or powerful, it's about becoming someone worth remembering. Then her voice softened. She might not be here right now, but she's in every word I'm saying. So what does it mean to win in life? It means waking up, letting go of your name, finding your truth, and using it to lift others. Silence, then one clap, then another, and then the room exploded into applause. A standing ovation, tears. Even some of the faculty were crying. From the back of the room, a woman with quiet eyes wiped a tear and smiled. Evelyn. She had come back quietly just to see her shine. And Ava, she wasn't a Miller that night. She was her own name. The video of her speech spread fast. First through students, then alumni, then the press. Billionaire's daughter credit school janitor for saving her life. That headline traveled further than any Miller Corporation deal ever had. Evelyn was offered a speaking engagement at a local college, then another, then a teaching position. Doors reopened, not because of a resume, but because of a truth that couldn't be ignored anymore. Ava passed every class, not with pity, with purpose. She declined Ivy League offers and chose a small college focused on social justice and education. When asked why, she said, "Because I want to teach the way she taught me and build the kind of place where no one has to ask to be seen." The sun was high over Lisbon the day Ava knocked on a modest front porch holding an envelope. Evelyn opened the door, wearing a simple cardigan and a look of quiet surprise. "You didn't have to come all the way out here." "I did," Ava replied, handing her the envelope. Inside her high school diploma, her college acceptance, and something else. A handwritten proposal. "I want to start something," she said. "A center, a place where people can learn like I did, with honesty, with depth, without shame. I want to call it the Evelyn Institute." Evelyn read the letter, then looked up, tears in her eyes. Why me? Because everything I am now started with you. Only if we do it together, she whispered. Always. Months later, the Evelyn Institute opened its doors in a repurposed community center in the heart of the city. Classes, mentorship, late-night writing circles. Kids who had been written off now had a second chance. Evelyn taught again with chalk, with books, with freedom. Ava ran too. He sensed programs, but never stopped learning, and the city took notice. Awards came, articles followed. But the real reward came when a student, 13 years old and struggling, handed Evelyn a notebook and said, "This place made me feel smart for the first time." She cried that day, and so did Ava. As for Eleanor, she came quietly to the Institute's opening, stood in the back, watched her daughters speak about justice, humility, and healing. After the event, they met outside. "I didn't expect to cry," Eleanor admitted. "I didn't expect to forgive you," Ava said. They hugged, not as mother and heir, but as two women trying. Years passed. The Institute grew. One evening, Ava took the stage again, this time for a National Education Award. She held the microphone, paused, and said, "They said I failed everything until I learned one thing that changed my life, that greatness doesn't come from being seen. It comes from seeing others. And sometimes the person who teaches you the most isn't in a suit. They're holding a mop." Quoting philosophers while no one's listening, her name is Evelyn Wallace, and she didn't save just my grades. She saved my soul. If you believe in stories that inspire, challenge, and give voice to those who are often unheard, hit that subscribe button below. More powerful journeys are coming, and we'd love to have you with us.